Hello YouTube and welcome to the next route learning video. On today's video we're going to be taking train 2Y26, which is the 1413 Edinburgh Waverley to North Berwick service along the Just Trains East Coast Mainline Newcastle to Edinburgh route. So the journey that we're going to be making is a distance of just over 22 miles, and on the way we're going to be calling at Musselburgh, Wallyford, Prestonpans, Longniddry, Drem and finally North Berwick. Our attraction for the journey is a Scotrail Class 380 Desiro, which has appeared in two of my videos before, covering both of the directions on the Glasgow Airport rail link route. The Class 380 has been in service since the 8th of December 2010 and was built by Siemens in Germany. A total of 38 Class 380s were built, with a maximum speed of 100 miles per hour. In the cab of the Class 380 there's not actually a lot that we need to do to set up the train, so I'm just going to move the reversing handle to the forward position. And that's pretty much all we need to do. As you probably saw, I'd already set the headlights up. And so just to have a look at this gauge here, what we have on the left, where you can see step 1, step 2 and step 3 with an arrow pointing. If I move the power handle you can see that arrow moving upwards, so the steps are showing what position the brakes are in, with 3 being the highest position before the emergency setting. Unlike most trains where I try and not go above step 2 braking, in the Class 380 there are times when you do need to use step 3 braking, as the brakes just don't seem powerful enough sometimes at step 2. And then when you've released the brakes completely and you move the handle upwards, the arrow that's pointing to the left will then move into the white zone, and the higher it is, it's showing you that the more power you've got applied.
May I have your...
Departing from Edinburgh Waverley, the starting speed limit is 20 miles per hour, and we've got just over 5 miles to go to the first stop, which is Musselburgh. So as we've now reached 20 miles per hour, I've just idled the power to allow the train to coast and ensure that we don't accelerate any further. The speed limit will quickly be going up to 70 miles per hour as we approach the tunnel that you can see coming up just ahead. As you can see, we're just past a 70 mile per hour speed board now, so I'm going to accelerate to that speed limit just as we pass this next 70 board. You can see just coming up on the left now. Now we've passed that board, I'm going to accelerate straight up in full power towards 70 miles per hour. After we pass through this tunnel in a short distance, the speed limit will then be increasing once again to 85 and then 90 miles per hour. The speed limit is now going up to 85 miles per hour. However, as we hadn't reached the previous 70 mile per hour speed limit, it doesn't really affect us. I'll just continue to accelerate up towards 85. And again, the speed limit will go up to 90 miles per hour before we've reached the current 85 speed limit. We've now just entered the 90 mile per hour speed zone. So for this first part of the journey from Edinburgh, we're just following the path of the East Coast Main Line, and then just after our stop at Drem, we will then turn off onto the single-track North Berwick branch. We're now passing Edinburgh Craigentinny depot on the right, which I believe is a depot for East Coast trains, or as it would be Virgin Trains East Coast now. I'm not sure if any other train operating companies stable their trains in that depot. I do apologise for the lag here. I knew it was going to lag because when I was learning this route I suffered lag near the depot. Hopefully it won't lag too badly on this journey anywhere else. So I have just temporarily idled the power at 90 miles per hour to ensure that we don't break the speed limit. But in a moment the speed limit should be going up to 95 miles per hour. And once we pass the 95 speed board, we've then got around 1 3/4 miles to go to our first stop. The speed limit is now going up to 95 miles per hour, so I'm just going to increase the power so that we can accelerate up towards that. What I'm looking for now is the next signal, which means that we've then got just over a mile to go. And once we reach the next signal, I'm going to fully idle the power. So as you can see, we've now reached the next signal and I have idled the power. I'm going to apply the brakes just after this next overbridge as soon as we enter the next left-hand curve. I'm initially going to make a step 3 brake application and then reduce to step 2 as we get closer to our stop. So we are now in step 3 of braking, which should bring our speed down quite nicely. You can now see the platforms at Musselburgh just coming up ahead. And so I'm going to stay in step 3 braking for now, and as I said, reduce as we get closer to the station. I try not to enter any platform on this route in this train at faster than 30 miles per hour. And some of them need to be entered at probably closer to 25 for an ideal approach speed. As you can see, I have now just dropped to 30 miles per hour, and in fact I am going to reduce the braking to step 1 momentarily. Here at Musselburgh we do need to stop at the end of the platform. Departing from Musselburgh, the starting speed limit is 90 miles per hour, and we've got around 2.5 miles to go to the next stop, which is Wallyford. I do plan on covering this route in the opposite direction at some point soon, either in a Class 91 or an HST. I'm not quite sure which of the two trains I'd like to use yet, but I just wanted to let you know that I do ultimately plan on covering the journey from Newcastle up to Edinburgh on a high-speed fast service. Speed limit here is going up to 125 miles per hour, but we do have to bear in mind that the maximum permitted speed for this train is 100 miles per hour. At this next signal just coming up, we've then got just over a mile to go to our stop, so at this point I'm now going to idle the power and allow the train to coast. And then what I'm going to look for now is a building on the right hand side just in the distance, and you can see that just coming up now. So as we're passing that, I'm then going to make a step 2 brake application. So we're passing the building now, and I'm now making a step 2 brake application, which should bring our speed down quite nicely. I will increase to step 3 if necessary as we get closer to our stop. You can now see the platforms at Wallyford just coming up in the distance. I have just momentarily reduced the brakes to step 1 as I felt we were slowing down just slightly too quick there. I want to aim to stop close to the end of the platform here, though it doesn't have to be quite right at the end. So what I estimate to be about 1 coach length away from the end, which should be somewhere close to here. So I'll just increase the braking to step 2, and then we should be stopped in about the right place. Departing Wallyford, the starting speed limit is 125 miles per hour, which means for this train 100 miles per hour, and we've got around 1 3/4 miles to go to our next stop, which is Prestonpans. And indeed, because the next stop is less than 2 miles away, there's no chance that we will reach 100 miles per hour before we have to have the brakes on to stop there. As we approach around 65 miles per hour, which we have done now, I'm now just going to idle the power and allow the train to coast. We shouldn't need any more power to get us to Longniddry. Sorry, correction, not Longniddry, Prestonpans. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the brakes just as we reach this signal here, initially up to step 2, which I'm doing now. And I will increase to step 3 if necessary as we get closer to the station. I did actually reduce the braking slightly there as I felt we were slowing down slightly too quick. Though now I think we might be coming into the station just slightly too quick. We'll see what happens. Here at Prestonpans we do need to stop at the end of the platform. Departing Prestonpans, the starting speed limit is 125 miles per hour, so once again 100 miles per hour for us. And we've got around 3 3/4 miles to go to the next stop, which is Longniddry. As you can see, the speed limit has just dropped to 110 miles per hour, however that doesn't affect us. At this crossing just here, we've now got just over 1.5 miles to go to Longniddry. And so what we're going to do is, at the next signal, going to idle the power and apply the brakes, initially up to step 3, and then reducing to step 2 as we get closer to the station. So now we've passed the signal, I have made a step 3 brake application, which should bring our speed off quite nicely. As we approach the station, I will reduce the braking depending on how fast we are going at that time. Can't see the platform quite yet. I have in fact just reduced the braking as I still can't see the platform, and now I can see it just coming up on this right hand curve here. So just in step 1 braking, going back up to step 2 now to make sure that we don't enter the platform at faster than 30 miles per hour, and we do need to stop near the end of the platform. Departing Longniddry, the starting speed limit is 110 miles per hour, and we've got around 4.5 miles to go to the next stop, which is Drem. As we continue to accelerate along here, what we're initially looking out for to signal that we're getting closer to our next stop are two speed boards. The first of which is where the speed limit drops to 105 miles per hour, and then just after that the speed limit will be going back up to 125 miles per hour. At the 125 mile per hour speed board, we've then got just over 1.5 miles to go to Drem. Just past the 105 mile per hour speed board, and very quickly we will then be reaching the 125 mile per hour speed board. And in fact we're reaching that speed board now. Now straight after that you can see a flashing double yellow approach controlled signal indicating that we are turning off just after the station. And so we've got 1.3 miles to go at that signal. And now where I'm going to apply the brakes is actually as we enter the next right hand curve. So I have now idled the power and I'm allowing us just to coast along at 100 miles per hour. And just as we enter this right hand curve here, I'm now going to make an immediate step 3 brake application to bring our speed down. We're now passing the approach controlled flashing single yellow signal, which is just over 1/2 mile from our stop. You can now see the platforms coming up just ahead, and with a step 3 brake application it should bring our speed down at about the right rate. I have now reduced the braking to step 2 braking and will reduce it further if necessary. Once again here at Drem we need to stop quite close to the end of the platform. Departing Drem, the starting speed limit is 115 miles per hour, though it is very quickly going down to 30 and then 25 as we turn off the East Coast main line towards the North Berwick branch. And we've got around 4.5 miles to go to the next and final stop, which is North Berwick. As we've now got to just above 35 miles per hour, I'm now idling the power to allow the train to coast. I will apply the brakes in a moment. In fact, I'm going to do that now to slow us down to 25 miles per hour in time for the upcoming left-hand point just here. So the speed limit is now down to 25 just as we've crossed the points. We're now going to go left on a second point as we turn on to the North Berwick branch. So what I'm going to do for the moment is I'm just going to brake slightly to ensure we don't break the speed limit. And now I'm just going to allow us to coast along here at 25 miles per hour. But just watching the speed carefully as we are going on a light downhill gradient. I think it's around 1 in 160, which could potentially cause us to gain just a very little bit of speed. I have just applied one step of braking momentarily and now released the brakes again, as I did feel we were gaining speed there, and so I'm keeping a close eye on the speedometer needle just for a moment. The gradient will level out soon as the speed limit goes up to 50 miles per hour, which is the highest speed limit on the North Berwick branch. As you can see, we've now just passed the 50 mile per hour speedboard and we can accelerate towards 50 miles per hour just as we get to this second overhead wire gantry after the signal. So I'm now going into full power to try and bring us up towards 50 miles per hour. We are about to start going uphill as steep as 1 in 65. So it is going to affect our ability to accelerate, and in order to maintain 50 miles per hour we are going to need to use a medium power setting to ensure that we don't lose too much speed on this uphill section. I have now reduced the power to a medium, not minimum, like I nearly said. I've now reduced the power to a medium setting. And as you can see, we're not going above 50 miles per hour. In fact, we're possibly losing a tiny bit of speed. But that's okay because the gradient will be levelling out in a moment. And once it does, I'm then going to have to go between idle and low power to try and maintain our speed. So here you can see the gradient is levelling out, so I'm now going to reduce the power towards idle. In fact, I've idled the power now, so just going to see what happens to our speed, and if we start to lose it then I will just add a little bit of power again to bring us back up towards 50 miles per hour. In a short distance the gradient will be changing again and we will be going up on a much shallower grade of 1 in 153. And so at that point I'm just going to apply a small amount of power. In fact, I'm going to do that now just to ensure we don't lose speed here. I have now idled the power once again momentarily, and you can see the train has now just started to climb. So this is the 1 in 153 gradient which I mentioned, so I am now increasing the power a bit. In a short distance the gradient will level out once again, and once it does I am going to idle the power and allow the train to coast. So we're now at the point where the gradient levels out. In a short distance the gradient will start going downhill, and in fact it will be downhill nearly all of the way into North Berwick, which will affect our ability to brake. What we're actually looking for now is a Morpeth board warning us of an upcoming 5 mph speed limit, which is the speed limit entering the platform at North Berwick. However, the speed limit does drop to 25 mph just before the 5 mph speed limit. We are starting to go downhill now, initially on a fairly light gradient, though it is going to get steeper to as steep as 1 in 67. And you can now see the Morpeth board just coming up here for the 5 mph speed limit. So now I've reset the AWS for that. I'm making a step 1 brake application initially, and now the gradient has just got steeper to the 1 in 67 gradient. I have now applied harder braking up to step 2. So what we're looking for first of all is the 25 mph speed board. And as I said, once we pass that, the 5 mph speed limit is coming up very quickly. So the 25 board is coming up now. And I did just temporarily go up to step 3 braking, which I'm going to do again now just to ensure that we have slowed down in time. So we're now doing 10 mph. I'm now reducing the braking down to step 1 as we're doing 5 mph, though the rear of the train is still on the downhill section. The gradient has now levelled out, so I have had to slow down to closer to 3 mph, and as you can see our speed is increasing because the rear of the train is pushing the front forward from where it is on the downhill gradient. So I'm now just applying some minimalistic braking once again, down to about 3 or 4 mph, and then releasing and allowing the train to coast back up towards 5 mph. I've just given us a very small amount of power as I felt that we were losing a tiny bit of speed there. The rear of the train has now reached the level section. I've idled the power once again, so we're just coasting towards the buffers now. And I'm going to aim to stop shortly after the first of the red lights on the buffers has disappeared, which is probably about the right distance to stop. So I'm just going to use a step 1 brake application, and now up to step 2, back down to step 1, and we should be stopped in about the right place. Thank you very much for watching. I really do hope that you've enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to check me out on Facebook, the link of which is in the description of this video, and also if you would like to financially support me because you value the work that I do, which will help me to buy new DLC and ultimately a new computer, so better equipment will enable me to produce higher quality videos, and more DLC will enable me to produce a wider range of videos. So if you'd like to financially support me towards any of that, then please visit my Patreon page, the link of which is in the description of this video. Once again, thanks for watching.